In 1996, the National Safety Council established June as National Safety Month in the United States. My name is John Savoya. I'm an executive level health and safety professional. I've been in construction for over 20 years and health and safety for over 11 of them. I thought it would be fun to conduct a few interviews of other safety professionals and post them throughout the course of this month. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, John Savoya here again with another interview, and today I'm here with my friend Cristina Barlow. Cristina, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, John. And yes, I consider us to be friends. So my name is Cristina Barlow, and I look after strategic partnerships at Marks Commercial. I've been with the company for just under 2 years now.
Awesome. So for those who don't know, because Marks is pretty much a household name in Canada. Um, for those who don't know, what's the difference between the Marks that we see, in our Canadian Tires or our standalone stores and Marks Commercial?
So the Marks retail stores that you see, associated with Canadian Tires and things like that are primarily where you and I would go to buy our Levi's jeans or Helly Hansen jackets. It's more geared towards personal, although we do leverage the retail stores for our B2B footwear program. Marks Commercial is a division of Marks, and we are B2B. So we work with all of the large construction companies, the large waste management companies, road builders, etc. So the primary difference in summary is that we are B2B and the Marks retail stores are retail.
Awesome. So we've been with Marks Commercial for, I believe, just over a year now. Correct me if I'm wrong. We've been
That's right.
partners at RSG with Marks for just over a year, and we do source a lot of our PPE from you. In fact, I got it right here. It's always
Oh,
with
that's
me.
great.
Um, can you explain to me some of the products that Marks Commercial offers that you may not be able to find anywhere else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our core competency is safety footwear, and that is what we're best known for. We own, I think, over 50% of the Canadian safety footwear market. And so that is where we really started. We provide head to toe PPE, and that sounds awfully simplistic, but our mission is to work with forward thinking companies such as RSG to leverage innovation to improve safety and think about the future safety of employees, not just the current safety of employees. Because our ultimate goal, and I know this is true of you, John, as well, is to prevent incidents from happening in the first place. And so we speak a lot with companies such as yourselves, both at the corporate and site level, gain insight, and then use innovation and proof of concept trials to launch new products that will prevent incidents from happening.
Yeah, and so one of the products that we order from Marks Commercial is the reflective vest with the VizLite technology, which
That's
I
right.
think is just the coolest thing ever. Um, well, first of all, could you explain what VizLite is and what it does and how it helps to protect workers out on sites and on the roadways?
I'm so glad you asked me this question. I think, and we think at Marks Commercial, that VizLite is the single greatest innovation in safety visibility in 20 years. But essentially, John, it's a tape that can be applied to anything. So to garments, to traffic cones, to water barriers, even the side of a truck. You expose it to light, either natural or artificial, for 5 to 10 minutes, and it emits a glow that increases conspicuity, which is a fancy word to say it increases visibility by up to 200 meters for 8 to 10 hours. And I just want to say that again, 200 meters, 8 to 10 hours, increased visibility. So if you are an industry or a company that has people working in low light or no light, it significantly reduces the risk of struck by incidents. And just speaking on a personal level, I think struck by incidents are one of the most horrible, but also preventable causes of incidents on a work site. And anything that we can do to increase visibility of the workers, I think, is something we should all get behind.
Absolutely, absolutely. We love the VizLite technology. We, as you know, and for those who don't know, RSG International is an industry leader in road safety products.
Mm.
So we are on the roadways installing things like concrete barrier and steel barrier. And we do work pretty much 24 hours a day. We have day shift and we have night shift throughout North America. Um, so VizLite technology on our end was super important, Christina, just to allow for our workers to be seen more efficiently, even though the work zone may be well illuminated, even though
Mm.
traffic control may be installed and functioning properly. That extra layer of protection that VizLite provides for our folks is unbeatable. And so yeah, we're very happy that we did partner with Marks to get the VizLite technology. We think it does wonders for our own personal safety out there on the field, but Marks Commercial doesn't just operate in construction. Marks Commercial, it has partnerships with industries really across the country. So
Mm.
outside of just your construction partnerships, what other industries does Marks Commercial reach into? What other partnerships does Marks have?
That is a really good question. So, I mean, my focus tends to be construction, but I also work very closely with waste management, with road builders, manufacturing, paramedics. And speaking of VizLite, I mean, paramedics was a game changer for them as well, for obvious reasons. They let us know that something like 76.4% of their incidents happen roadside. And so this increased visibility for paramedics was critical as well. But really, John, any industry where you have to wear a safety vest or safety boots, Mark's Commercial partners with.
That's fantastic. But it's not just a safety vest that Marks offers. Marks Commercial, we get our hard hats from Marks, and vests from Marks, and arm and leg bands from Marks. So generally speaking, I'm not going to ask you to list every product in your catalog, but what are some of your favorite products that you deal with from Marks?
I mean, so to answer your first question first, head to toe. And everything in between. We do not do things like safety harnesses. That's specialized. We want to focus on our core competency, but we're primarily footwear led, but head to toe. So hard hats, the vests, the FR apparel. What are my favorite things? I have to say that as a woman who is in the construction industry or construction industry adjacent, one of my favorite things is that we provide a carefully curated line of true fit women's PPE. And that expands out to FR, that expands to the safety footwear. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but on as many weekends as possible, I volunteer at Habitat for Humanity, which means I have to wear a PPE myself. And I get all of my stuff from Merck's Commercial, and it fits perfectly. So from a personal favorite, aside from VizLite, it's our line of women's PPE.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Personally, I'm a big advocate for women in construction. I have a daughter, and I want my daughter to be comfortable in this industry
Yeah.
and to feel accepted and welcomed if she chooses to get into this industry. But I also lead a team of incredible women safety professionals. As you know, you work closely with them as well. But you do a lot of outward advocacy for women in construction. And I have to commend you on that because I love the work that you do.
Thank you.
But what motivated you to really dive into the advocacy for women in construction?
So it's a bit of a long question, but I'll try to keep it a long answer, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. I've been 25 years in business, John, only 2 years in HSE. I didn't know what I didn't know. And as I, joined Mark's Commercial, I was speaking to the men and women at site level. I got to do so many site visits. I was lucky enough to do that, to speak with people at head office, but primarily at the job site. You notice the few women on the job site. I mean, I think the construction industry is something like 5% of the total industry who's actively working in the trades on the site. I noticed women were wearing unisex garments where the sleeves were too long, the armholes were too big, the legs were too long. I personally have witnessed women put duct tape around their sleeves or safety pins in FR garments, which effectively negates the FR properties, right? I mean, you're aware of that. And, women come in all shapes and sizes, from, 4'11" to 6 feet. Unisex is not a thing. Shrink it and pink it does not work. It's, I mean, unisex is fundamentally men's garments sized down. So as I had more and more exposure to construction, to waste management, to trucking, I did a dive into some of the, white papers that have been published on women's PPE. And I learned some shocking statistics, John. The CSA conducted a confidential study of 3,000 women, and 50% said that their PPE didn't fit them properly. 43% said that the improperly fitting PPE caused injury. Try to imagine you have enough to worry about when you go to site. You have to keep yourself safe. You have to be, skilled. You have to do all of your training, your safety stand downs. How distracting would it be for you if you were to arrive on the job site and you think to yourself, I hope my sleeve doesn't get caught in a piece of machinery and takes my arm off. So the reason I became passionate about it is because it's enough to be a minority in, what is frankly still a male-dominated industry. You've got enough to think about already. With that being the case, you should not have to worry about whether your safety wear is going to actively be the thing that causes you injury. Because it's one thing to get women into the industry, but I think that we have to support them. And if we can remove one small thing, which is properly fitting PPE, then that's what I wanted to do. And, just in closing, John, I'll say, and I know that you feel this way because you and I talk a lot, is that nobody goes to work expecting not to come home at the end of the day. And that includes everybody, men and women.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was a fantastic answer. I agree with everything that you said. Um, the human life, right, is why we do safety, right? The value of the life behind the hard hat, behind the vest and the boots, regardless of gender or identity. So having PP that fits, and we have a bunch of women's PPE that specifically are designed to fit women. It's super important, and something that I think everybody in this industry could and should get behind. Speaking of your advocacy, I know that you're involved with a lot of different groups. The one that I'm going to call out is CAWIC, which is a phenomenal organization in and of itself. Um, how do you think these associations that you're involved in, like CAWIC, how do you think they can change the industry in as much as how women are treated and accepted within the construction industry in particular?
Yeah, I mean, KWIC is one of my favorites, and I also sit on the Women of Waste subcommittee, which is part of W2RO. And I think that committees such as these two, I mean, there's a multiple of benefits that they provide. First and foremost is raising awareness. So raising awareness that construction is a viable and honorable trade for women to get into. They go into schools, so they start with young women and girls. They provide it as an option, as you and I both know that getting a degree is not the be all and end all, right? I mean, there are other alternatives, and you can make a very lucrative career getting into construction, both men and women. So number one is awareness. Number two is advocacy. Advocacy means speaking to the major construction companies and saying, look, this is not a male bashing exercise. This is, you might not know what you don't know. And so women are saying that they need separate washrooms, for example, on site. Women are saying that they need properly fitting PPE. Women are saying that they need, sponsorship and allyship and other strong female leaders in the construction industry to look up to. Let us help you provide those services. So there's the awareness, and then there's the sort of directionality. So, directing people where to avail themselves of those services because they may not know. And I think that we all know that, there's a labor shortage, not only in Canada, but globally. And so, women, new Canadians, first Canadians, that is going to be the area that we're going to have to mine, for lack of a better word. And in order to bring those people on board and keep them on board, we have to support them. And so these kind of associations help with that effort.
Great answer. That's a great answer. There's been a lot of changes, primarily over the last 2 years, to support diversity and inclusion in construction. Most recently, with the new amendment to the Working for Workers Act. Um, with all that's changed so far, I believe that more can be done. But what's your opinion on the changes that have been put through by the Ontario Ministry of Labour in the amendment of the Working for Workers Act to support inclusion in the trades?
So I'm nowhere near the expert that you are, John. I mean, you know everything about everything on this topic. I can only let you know what I have heard, sort of secondhand via testimonials, visiting all of the sites and doing what I do. The inclusion of some of these support networks that I mentioned earlier, mentorship and allyship has been of critical importance. Sensitivity training has been of critical importance for the women I'm speaking about specifically. And the reception I get at any trade event and conference that I go to, where I speak about women's PPE, or inclusive PPE is actually probably a better term. I've had women in tears actually who give me a hug because they just didn't know it existed. So I think that the awareness that this legislation is bringing forward is going to create a snowball effect. Like you, I agree that there's more to be done, and that's perhaps a little slow at the moment, or perhaps I'm impatient. I don't know. But the bottom line is that I think it's starting. I think it's going in the right direction, but I think we need to continue and not take our foot off the pedal.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I would personally like to see uh, other associations kind of offer their support to KWIC and you know the waste to resource subcommittees and things like that. I know that Orba does. We both sit on the Ontario Road Builders Association HS committee. But in terms of allyship, how can the males and the men in construction and in these associations, how can we support KWIC and the movement to make construction more inclusive for people of different gender identities?
So, so people like yourself, John, who invite me to speak on this podcast, who are, loud advocates of women in the construction industry who want to promote it to your own daughter. Getting those stories out there is actively the first step. The flip side of that coin for me is avoiding tokenism. There's a lot of people who celebrate, who say that they celebrate Women in Construction Week. And I actually think it was you who said it on a LinkedIn post, is that you look forward to a day where we're not celebrating one segment of the population over another. It's just Construction Week, where everybody is safe and we don't have to say we're celebrating just women. So I think that it has to be internalized at a sort of cellular level, and people have to understand that we're 50% of the population, and we're only 5% of the construction workforce. There's a reason for that disparity. This is not about, again, I said male bashing. This is about coming together, sharing best practices, and creating a framework by which more women can join and stay and feel comfortable and supported.
That's a fantastic answer. And you're right. I did write a post, and I thought I was going to receive some flack for it, but it's the honest truth.
It is.
I can't wait for the day when we're just celebrating people in construction.
Yep.
Right. Because swinging a hammer, or doing electrical, or doing some plumbing, or operating a machine, that's something anybody can do with proper training and certifications and whatnot. I have to be very careful. I'm a safety guy, right? But yeah, I do look forward to that day, and I love the work that you do and that KWIC does, and to advocate for women in construction for my daughter, right?
Yeah.
I don't look at the John Savoya of now. I look at Nina Savoya, right?
Yeah.
And what she wants to do. But aside from the advocacy for women in construction, you're also a very strong advocate for road safety. And many people may not know that, but I know that because we're on the committee together. How do you think and this may be kind of a loaded question, so answer to the best of your ability. But how do you think we can better uh, warn drivers of work zones that they may be approaching? How do we bolster work zone safety, both within the site and outside of the site?
So you are 100% correct that I am a huge advocate for road safety. I've slightly turned into that crazy lady who rolls down my window and gives people heck for not slowing down in construction zone because of my association with Mark's Commercial. I've fallen in love, and by fallen in love, I mean genuinely fallen in love with the men and women who are in construction. And I just the risk of struck by it causes me sleepless nights, frankly. So that is true. Coincidentally, I just drove back from Niagara Falls last night, where I was at a trade show, and I traveled, 2 or 3 different highways through 4 or 5 different construction zones. And I noticed that all of the construction companies to a company gave ample notice that you were entering a construction zone, the orange paint, the orange traffic cones, well before the construction areas, the barriers. I I think that, again, I'm not an expert in this area, but I think that leveraging social media, television networks, radios to raise awareness of, entering construction zones. I hesitate to say use a shock and awe tactic, but I think people almost need to be, I don't want to say hit on the head with a brick, but I think that they need a strong message. I think that they need a strong message, John. And I'm not trying to be glib about it, but people don't pay attention if it's sort of a passive message. Here in downtown Toronto, where I live, at the bus stops, at the TTC stops, there's an active campaign ongoing for waste management who work in low light or no light and slow down and don't try to pass them because they have visibility issues, et cetera, et cetera. I think more of that is required. And I think that the government needs to subsidize this and to step up to the plate at the risk of being provocative, because these are the people who are building Ontario and building Canada.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That was the perfect answer that I was looking for. So with every interview, I ask a few questions, right? The first question that I'm going to ask is, you have a lot of experience with, sales. On your LinkedIn, you can see your work history is super impressive, and you've been pretty much, all over the world in different roles. But what advice would you have to somebody who, whether they're in sales or whether they're in construction, who wants to get into construction? What advice do you have to women who are looking to enter this field in the construction landscape? Doesn't have to be necessarily in the trades. It could be in sales or it could be in safety. What advice would you give them?
What the advice that I would give them, and I would like to offer a shortcut because it's something that it took me, a couple of months to realize because of my association with Marks, and you mentioned it earlier, John, is to reach out to these associations that exist. A lot of these associations have bursaries for training. They provide allyship and support. They can direct to companies who are looking for skilled labor in your area of expertise. There are placement services that they can provide, and also to reach out to allies such as yourself. I would use LinkedIn as a tool. I'm a LinkedIn super user, but if you look for, if you just type in, women in construction in Canada, there are a range of associations that will pop up, and to a person, they are active and willing to help and want to help.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna shout her out. She might be shocked by it, but there's a company called Ambition Theory, that's run by a woman named Andrea, I believe, and I love what they do. They are very active on LinkedIn, very, very strong advocates for women in construction and women in leadership positions. So I did just want to throw that out. If there is somebody who's going to be listening to this interview and thinking of, okay, well, who can I contact? KWIC, Ambition Theory, things like that. But moving on to the last two questions here, you rub shoulders with a lot of fantastic safety professionals across different industries.
What is your, I guess, what is the most frustrating thing or the thing you like the least about safety in Ontario? And it doesn't have to be necessarily with professionals, it could be with the industry. And then following that, what's your favorite thing about how Ontario does safety and the people that you work with on a day-to-day basis that do safety?
I think my least favorite and my most favorite are directly connected because they're flip sides of the coin, right? You're 100%, is that right, in saying that I get to rub shoulders with some pretty incredible safety professionals and people that have actually inspired me in my day-to-day life. So I don't jaywalk anymore. I clean all the snow off my car before I leave. I talk to my friends and family if I spot a safety hazard. Like, these are people who have influenced my personal life. My least favorite thing is when safety is a tick box exercise, number one. As a corollary to that, John, it's the disconnect that can exist between head office and the site. Because you and I both know that safety is not just the onus of the site level, and it is not separated from head office. Every single person in the company, regardless of what they do, is responsible for safety. And to try to, sort of pawn it off to the site level is not taking responsibility. It's not collaborative, and it means you don't love your employees, frankly. The flip side of that coin is the exact opposite of what I've said. Are the companies where safety is deeply ingrained throughout the entire fabric of the organization, where every single person knows what safety culture means. And on this topic of safety culture, and I referenced it earlier, everything stems from safety culture: innovation, inclusion. Safety culture is not tick box. Safety culture is love for each other, and it is our values, and it is our ideals, and everything stems from them. So what I love the most is a good safety culture.
That's awesome. That's a great answer. So, um, do you have any questions of me before I end the interview?
Well, I mean, I'd love to see these podcasts continue, John. I think that you have a natural ability for it, although I recognize that it's a lot of work. But all joking aside, they are extremely educational. And I think that platforms such as this really go a long way for advocating for not only construction, for not only a career in the trades, but also for equity in the trades. And so, just on behalf of myself and everybody at Marks Commercial, we wanted to thank you for putting these podcasts out, because you've got everybody at Marks Commercial as fans.
No, it's I appreciate that. I'm very happy and I'm honored to work so closely with Mark's Commercial. Just it's like you said, right? When you refer to safety being ingrained into the fabric of the organization, um, that same feeling is what, as a partner, we get from Mark's.
Thank you.
That safety, it's not just a product to sell. Which is the most annoying thing in the world, to anybody, right? When a salesperson calls them. But with Marks, safety is ingrained into the fabric and the DNA of why Marks does what Marks does. So it's an honor to work with you guys. It's always a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon in person. So I'm going to put links in the show notes to Mark's Commercial and also to Christina's LinkedIn profile. Have a great day.
Have a great day, and thank you for your time, John.
Thank you, Christina.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.